Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is David. So, I got my Social Security deposit this month, $1,247. $1,247. That's it. That's what Uncle Sam says I've earned after 50 some years of working, paying into the system, building things with my hands. $1,247. Now, here's the question I want to ask you, and I want you to really think about this. Can you survive on $1,247 a month? Can you survive on that? I mean, really survive, not just exist, not just scrape by hoping nothing goes wrong, but actually live a life with some dignity, some peace of mind. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'll tell you right now, the answer is more complicated than a simple yes or no. If you get anything out of this video, anything at all, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. Leave in the comments what your Social Security situation looks like. I'm curious. I'm sure yours is different from mine, and I want to hear about it. Now, before we get too deep into this, let me give you my standard disclaimer. I'm not a financial planner. I don't play one on YouTube. I don't have letters after my name. I don't have fancy degrees hanging on my wall. What I have is 72 years of living, a whole lot of mistakes made, and some lessons learned the hard way. I spent most of my working life as a painting contractor. Commercial, residential, you name it, I painted it. Did that for about 35 to 36 years. Got into real estate along the way, bought some properties, sold some, rented some, lost some, made money, lost money. That's just the way it goes. Here's the thing that people don't understand about guys like me who worked in the trades, especially if you were self-employed for any stretch of time. Our Social Security calculation is, well, it's complicated. There were years I didn't report everything I should have, and I'm not proud of that, but I'm being honest with you. There were years I maxed out, years I barely put anything in. So that $1,247, that's the average of a very bumpy road. My wife, Linda, she was a teacher's aide for years, then did some clerical work. Her Social Security is a bit less than mine. So together, we're looking at right around $2,400 a month from Social Security alone. That's our foundation. That's what we built everything else on top of. This is what we did, and it's working for us. That's all I know. Your situation might be completely different, and I respect that. All right, let me hit you with some numbers here. And these aren't numbers I made up. I actually looked these up because I wanted to know where I stand compared to everybody else. The average Social Security retirement benefit in 2024 is about $1,907 a month. So I'm below average. That's just the reality. Now, that's for workers. If you're talking about couples where both worked, it's a bit higher. If you're talking about someone who only gets spousal benefits, it's lower. Here's the one that really bothered me, though. Roughly 40% of Americans 65 and older rely on Social Security for at least half of their income, at least half. And about 14%, 1 in 7, rely on it for 90% or more of their income. Now, that does not include pensions. That doesn't include savings. That doesn't include help from family. That's just people for whom Social Security is basically all they've got. 14%, 1 in 7. I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible in a country like this? But then I think about the guys I used to work with, the guys on my crews over the years. A lot of them didn't have 400 and wonks. They didn't have pensions. They lived paycheck to paycheck because that's what the work demanded. And now they're 70, 75, and that Social Security check is everything. One stat that really hit me, the federal poverty line for a single person over 65 is about $15,060 a year. You know what $1,247 a month comes out to? $14,964. I am technically, by the numbers, below the poverty line on Social Security alone. Let that sink in for a minute. Here's a big one, and I don't think you can talk about surviving on Social Security without talking about this first. Housing. Housing is everything. It is the single biggest factor in whether you can make $1,247 work or whether you're going to be in serious trouble. I had a friend, guy named Harold, good man. We worked together on a few jobs back in the late 92nds, early 2000s. Harold retired about 6 years ago. He was renting an apartment in Phoenix, nice enough place, nothing fancy. When he retired, his rent was $1,100 a month. His Social Security, about $1,350. Do the math. That left him $250 for everything else, food, gas, medicine, everything. Within 2 years, his rent went up to $1,400 a month. He couldn't keep up. He ended up moving in with his daughter in New Mexico. It really broke my heart when he told me about it. He said, David, I worked my whole life, and now I'm living in my kid's spare bedroom. Now, Harold's not a failure. He's not lazy. He just got caught in a situation where the numbers didn't work. And that's happening to people all over this country. Here's what we did, and I'll be honest with you, this is probably the single most important decision we made. We paid off our house. Took us, I don't know, 22, 23 years. It wasn't a straight line. We refinanced once, took out a second mortgage once for a business thing that didn't pan out. But by the time we hit our mid 62nds, that house was ours. No mortgage payment. Now, that doesn't mean housing is free. We still pay property taxes about $280 a month when you average it out. Insurance, maintenance, things break. But we're not writing a $1,500 rent check every month. That's the difference between survival and comfort. If you're watching this and you're still paying rent, or you've still got a big mortgage, and you're relying on Social Security alone, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. The numbers are brutal. Another big factor is health care. And this is where a lot of people, myself included, kind of got surprised by how things work. When you turn 65, you get Medicare. Great. People act like Medicare is this magic wand that makes all your health problems free. It is not. It is absolutely not. Medicare Part A, the hospital stuff, that's generally free. But Part B, the doctor visits, that has a premium. Right now, it's about $175 a month, and that comes straight out of your Social Security before you even see it. So that $1,247 I get, that's already after they took out the Medicare premium. Before that deduction, my benefit was more like $1,400 something. Then there's Part D, prescription drugs. That's another premium, anywhere from $15 to $100 a month, depending on your plan. And you've still got copays, deductibles, all of that. I'll tell you a quick story. About 2 years ago, I had a procedure done on my back. Nothing major, just some injections for the pain, but I needed 3 rounds of them. Medicare covered most of it. My out of pocket still came to about $800. That's one procedure, $800. Now, we have a Medigap plan, Plan G, that covers a lot of the gaps. But that's another $150 a month for me, another $140 for Linda. That's $290 a month just for the supplemental insurance. Add it up, and we're spending over $500 a month on healthcare related costs before we even get sick, before we fill a single prescription. Can you do that on $1,247? I mean, maybe if you're healthy, if you don't need much medication, if you qualify for low income assistance. But the older you get, the more things start to break down. That's just the way it is. And when they break down, it costs money. Here's one that I noticed recently, and I mean really noticed: food costs. Linda and I, we don't eat out much anymore. Maybe once a month we go get breakfast somewhere, nothing fancy. But groceries, even just buying basics at the store, I'm amazed at what things cost now. We budget about $400 a month for groceries for 2 people. And we're not buying steaks and lobster, you know? We're buying chicken thighs, ground beef when it's on sale, vegetables, bread, eggs, basic stuff. And $400 is tight, really tight. I remember, and this is going back maybe 10 to 12 years, we could feed ourselves for $250, maybe $300 a month, same kinds of food. Now it's $400, and we're still watching every dollar. On $1,247 a month, if you're spending $350, $400 on food alone, and you've got healthcare costs and you've got utilities, there's just not much left. Not much at all. One thing we learned to do, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but we started a small garden, nothing big, just some tomatoes, peppers, some lettuce in the spring. Saves us maybe $30, $40 a month in the summer. It's not a lot, but when you're counting every dollar, it adds up. Plus, it gets me outside, gives me something to do. Good for the mind as much as the wallet. Now, here's a big thing that doesn't get talked about enough: transportation. If you live somewhere rural, like we do, well, we're not super rural, but we're not in a city either. You need a car, period. There's no bus, no subway, no Uber showing up in 3 minutes. You need a car. Our car is paid off, thank God. It's a 2017 Honda CRV, got about 87,000 miles on it. Runs good. But here's the thing: insurance is about $120 a month. Gas, even not driving a ton, is probably another $80, $100. Registration, maintenance, the occasional repair, call it another $50, $100 averaged out. So you're looking at $300, $350 a month for transportation if you're lucky, and nothing major breaks. If you're making payments on a car, forget it. You're in trouble. I had a buddy, this was a few years back. He retired and was still making payments on his truck, $450 a month. His whole Social Security check was basically going to the truck and his rent. He couldn't do it. Ended up selling the truck, buying an old Beta for cash. Pride took a hit, but the numbers started working. If you're approaching retirement and you've got a car payment, I'm going to tell you what I'd tell my own son: get rid of it. Drive something boring, drive something old, I don't care. Just don't have a payment. Here's the thing that kind of crept up on me, and it's something nobody really talks about: the stuff you don't expect. You can budget for rent, for food, for insurance, but what about when the water heater breaks? What about when you need new glasses? What about when your grandkid's having a birthday and you want to give them something, anything? Last year, our refrigerator died. It was 18 years old, so I can't complain. It had a good life. But a new one, even a basic one, costs us $1,100. Where does that come from on $1,247 a month? It comes from savings, if you've got them. It goes on a credit card if you don't. I'll tell you, the stress of living with no margin, it wears on you. When every dollar is spoken for, when there's no buffer, every little surprise becomes a crisis. That's no way to live. That's existing, not living. What we did, and this took discipline, we built up a small emergency fund. Nothing huge, maybe $5,000, $6,000. It's there for the water heater, for the refrigerator, for the car repair. We don't touch it for anything else. When we use it, we build it back up slowly, but we build it back. If you're living on Social Security alone, truly alone, I don't know how you build that buffer. I really don't. That's the honest truth. Now, here's another one that I don't think people talk about enough, and it's the emotional side of this whole thing. When you go from working, from earning, from being productive, to living on a fixed income that the government sends you, there's something that happens in your head. There's a shift. For years, if I needed more money, I'd take on another job. I'd hustle, work weekends, find something. Now, my income is my income. It is what it is. There's no overtime. There's no side job. Well, there's this YouTube thing, but that's different. That's not work in the same way. I had to learn to be okay with having less. Less money, less stuff, less busyness. And honestly, that's been one of the hardest adjustments. Not the money itself, but what the money represents. Society tells you your worth is tied to your income, your productivity. When that income drops to $1,247 a month, what does that say about your worth? I had to fight against that voice in my head for a long time. Still do, some days. But here's what I've come to understand. My value is not in a dollar amount. It's in the life I've lived, the people I've loved, the things I've built. Nobody can deposit that in a bank account, but it's worth more than any check. So, can you survive on $1,247 a month? Here's what I've figured out. If you own your home, if you're relatively healthy, if you live somewhere with a reasonable cost of living, if you have even a small amount of savings or some other income, yeah, you can probably make it work. It's not luxurious, it's not comfortable, but you can do it. If you're renting in a high-cost area, if you've got serious health issues, if you have debt, if Social Security is truly all you've got, I don't know. I really don't. The math doesn't math, as the kids say. What we do, Linda and I, is we combine our Social Security that gets us to about $2,400. We have a small pension from her teaching years, maybe $300 a month. I have a little bit of rental income from a property we held on to, maybe $500 after expenses. Altogether, we're at around $3,200 a month. That's livable. That's not wealthy, but that's livable. But $1,247 alone, that's survival mode. That's choosing between medicine and groceries. That's one broken car away from disaster. As I've gotten older, I've thought a lot about what enough really means. When I was 40, 50, I wanted more money, more projects, more stuff. I was always chasing the next thing. And I'm not saying that was wrong. That ambition built a life, built a family, built something. But now, at 72, what I want is peace. I want to wake up without anxiety about money. I want to spend time with Linda, play with the grandkids, putter around in the garage. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need a big house. I don't need vacations to exotic places. I need enough, just enough. And here's the strange thing. $1,247 could be enough, depending on how you've set up your life. If you made the right moves early, paid off debt, bought a house you could afford, lived below your means, $1,247 can be a piece of a puzzle that works. If you didn't make those moves, if life threw you curveballs, if you're starting from a harder place, that same $1,247 is a prison. I'm not proud of all the decisions I made over the years. I spent money I shouldn't have spent. I took risks that didn't pay off. I didn't save as much as I should have when I was young. But somehow, through luck and grace and stubborn persistence, I ended up in a place where the numbers work. Not everybody does. And it's not always their fault. So what would I tell someone who's approaching this phase of life? Here's what we did, what worked for us. First, pay off your house if you possibly can. I know that's easier said than done. I know the market is crazy. But if you can enter retirement without a mortgage or rent payment, you've won half the battle. Second, get real about healthcare costs. Don't assume Medicare covers everything. Budget for supplements, for prescriptions, for the unexpected. Talk to someone who understands this stuff. Third, build a buffer, even if it's small, even if it takes years. Having $5,000 in the bank for emergencies changes your whole psychology. You're not living on the edge anymore. Fourth, look at your recurring expenses. Subscriptions, memberships, things you're paying for every month that you don't really use or need. Cut them. Every $50 a month you save is $600 a year. That matters. Fifth, and this is a hard one, consider where you live. Some places are just too expensive for a Social Security retirement. I'm not saying uproot your whole life, but think about it. There are parts of this country where your money goes a lot further. And finally, find something that gives you purpose, something beyond just surviving. For me, it's this channel. It's connecting with you folks. It's feeling like I'm still contributing something. Because surviving isn't the same as living. So can you survive on $1,247 a month? The honest answer is it depends. It depends on choices you made decades ago. It depends on luck. It depends on your health, your family, where you live, 100 different factors. For some people, that $1,247 is a piece of a comfortable retirement. For others, it's a daily struggle. If you're watching this and you're not there yet, if you're 50, 55, 60, please start planning now. Make the moves. Pay off the debt. Save what you can, because that Social Security check is coming, and it might be smaller than you think. If you're already there, already living it, already trying to make $1,247 stretch, I see you. I understand. And I hope you found at least one thing in this video that helps. Leave in the comments, what's your Social Security situation? Are you living on it alone? Do you have other income? What strategies have you found to make it work? I want to hear from you. I learn as much from your comments as you might learn from me. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate every single one of you who's part of this little community we're building. Until we meet again, which I hope will be soon, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and remember, we're all in this thing together. I'm going to continue to press on towards that goal, and I hope you will too. See you in the next one.